The Minnesota Timberwolves just made the biggest gamble of the Anthony Edwards era. This isn't a small rotation tweak or a depth addition. It's a full-scale statement about who they believe they are and where this team is headed next. With Minnesota now fully operating inside a win-now window built around Anthony Edwards, every move carries a different level of pressure, and this one raises the stakes even higher. It signals that Edwards is no longer just the face of the future. He is the present, and the entire identity of the franchise is being built around his timeline. But every gamble in the NBA comes with risk. If it works, it can fast-track a true championship contender. If it fails, it can stall momentum and force painful recalibration years down the line. Either way, Minnesota has made its position clear. They're no longer playing it safe. They're betting everything on the idea that their future is now.
Right now, to me, the best backcourt in the NBA.
This move feels like it ends in one of two ways: a championship run or a complete collapse, with very little room in between. The moment it became official, the basketball world split almost instantly. On one side, there's a vision of a terrifying backcourt built to attack relentlessly, overwhelm defenses, and put constant pressure on every matchup in front of them. On the other, there's a concern, a high-risk experiment that can unravel if the fit doesn't click and the pressure of expectations becomes too heavy to carry. For the Minnesota Timberwolves and Anthony Edwards, everything now comes down to chemistry, timing, and execution, because this isn't just another roster adjustment. It's a full commitment to a win-now identity that could either push Minnesota into true contender status overnight or reset the franchise's trajectory for years if it falls apart.
I think this is a step backwards, and I think they've taken steps backwards since the catch.
And others believe Minnesota didn't take a step forward at all. They may have actually taken a step backward. From that perspective, this isn't a move that pushes the Timberwolves closer to contention, but one that risks unsettling the chemistry, balance, and long-term growth of a roster built around Anthony Edwards. In today's NBA, where fit often matters as much as talent, critics see uncertainty where others see ambition, arguing that aggressive win-now swings can just as easily derail a rising team as they can elevate it, especially when expectations rise faster than cohesion.
LaMelo!
A lot of people, and honestly, most of the league, still don't know where to stand on it. 6 years after being drafted first and third in the 2020 NBA draft, Anthony Edwards and LaMelo Ball are now linked in the same storyline, and Edwards was reportedly excited when the news broke because he understands what this move is meant to fix. At its core, Minnesota believes this trade solves the one issue that has quietly held them back from reaching the NBA Finals: late-game offense under pressure. After back-to-back Western Conference Finals runs, the Timberwolves still saw their seasons end in frustration, with playoff possessions too often breaking down into isolation basketball, and no true floor general to steady the offense alongside Edwards. Over the years, the team has tried multiple solutions: Ricky Rubio, D'Angelo Russell, Patrick Beverley, Mike Conley, but none fully solved the problem, and injuries only exposed how fragile the backcourt structure was when it mattered most. Behind the scenes, the pressure kept building around one question: how long can you ask a superstar to do everything before it starts costing you titles? Minnesota decided they couldn't keep running it back, and this was the aggressive swing they kept circling.
Minnesota, this is a move to get Ant Edwards the kind of backcourt running mate that he needs. Ant Edwards was a guy that people, after Giannis getting traded, were like, is this the next star player to be traded? He has watched Karl Anthony Towns go to New York in a trade that ended up not working out and win a championship. Where is his mind, his head at? He's tired of being double teamed. They get him a dynamic scorer in the backcourt. You throw a double team in Ant Edwards with LaMelo Ball on the court, you are playing with fire. LaMelo will drop 10 3-pointers on you in the blink of an eye. And so this is what their move is, to accomplish this.
On paper, the fit looked almost too obvious. LaMelo Ball just posted 20.1 points and 7.1 assists across 72 games, his healthiest season since 2022, and his impact went far beyond traditional box score production. When he was on the floor, his team scored 123.2 points per 100 possessions. But when he sat, that number dropped to 110.6, one of the biggest on-off swings in the entire league, comparable to elite offensive engines like Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. In other words, he wasn't just producing, he was driving the entire system. That level of offensive control, creativity, and playmaking is exactly what the Minnesota Timberwolves have been missing next to Anthony Edwards, and according to ESPN's Brian Windhorst, it's the kind of primary engine Minnesota has been searching for to unlock their next leap.
Basically only on winning. I look at winning. Charlotte, you're going to have some time that's going to happen. With Minnesota, they were in a situation where it's like, y'all need to move the needle or else things are going to start shifting around.
But here's the stat that explains exactly why Tim Connolly pushed for this move. Anthony Edwards and LaMelo Ball were both among the 5 most prolific pull-up three-point shooters in the league last season. A rare overlap that only a handful of duos have ever shared since tracking began in 2013-14. The closest historical comparisons are James Harden and Chris Paul in Houston, and Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum in Portland. And in both cases, those teams produced top-tier offenses that routinely finished near the top of the league. That's the blueprint Minnesota is chasing. But the real key is how Edwards actually scores. He shot nearly 50% on catch-and-shoot threes this season, the best mark among more than 300 players with at least 75 attempts. But only 28% of his threes came in catch-and-shoot situations. The rest were self-created, and his efficiency dipped when he had to generate everything himself. In simple terms, Minnesota's best shooter was often forced into doing the hardest part of the job, create his own looks because the system around him couldn't consistently generate clean ones. Now imagine flipping that entirely with LaMelo Ball next to him. A 6 feet 7 inches playmaking guard with elite vision, creativity, and the ability to manipulate defenses with a single action. Instead of initiating every possession, Edwards could spend more time off the ball, running off screens, attacking closeouts, and getting the kind of clean catch-and-shoot opportunities elite offenses are built around.